welcome to TV Africa News. Thank you so much for joining us and always being part of us. This is Africa Today. My name is Nahabeka Jura, but first are the headlines. President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni commissions Committee on Exports Industrial Development. Ministry of Health confirms outbreak of influenza A virus among learners. War in Ukraine sparks food security fears in Democratic Republic of Congo. In sports today, Vipers edge Busoga United to establish 4-point lead. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. We start with one of our top stories. Now, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has said that there is need to sort out the business roles between the Uganda National Chamber of Commerce and KASITA, a business support association in Uganda, in order to promote trade and development. We have the details.
Museveni was yesterday commissioning the Presidential Advisory Committee on Exports and Industrial Development, intended to generate the necessary consensus across key government institutions, the private sector, exporters, producers, lawmakers, technical staff and all categories of leaders on deliberate actions to make exports a key growth weapon. Museveni said that he will also support and boost the Uganda Air Cargo Corporation to transport our exports in the region and beyond. Uganda Air Cargo is Africa's biggest C-130 operator and second to none on the African continent, and offers reliable, high-quality cargo service to regional and international partners. He commended what he described as volunteers and patriotic Ugandans who agreed to come in and fill the gaps, a responsibility which should have been done by the Ministry of Trade. Using a local saying, Museveni said if the owners of a cow does not know what to do about his cow, the vet wastes his time. The president said this while referring to the newly commissioned committee that is focused on doubling Uganda's total exports from the current $6.6298 billion to $12 billion by 2026. The committee has stakeholders from the private sector dealing in beef, cement, grains and pulses, flowers and plants, fish, coffee, steel, animal feeds, tourism, bananas, poultry and sugar, among others.
Away from that, the Ministry of Health, together with the Ministry of Education and Sports, have appealed to the general public to remain calm following the outbreak of influenza A virus in schools, as the country remains on a high alert to prevent any potential insurgency of COVID-19. We have the details.
While addressing journalists at the Government Media Center in Kampala, State Minister for Primary Education, Dr. Joyce Muriku Kaduchu, said samples taken from 128 out of the 431 who presented symptoms that were thought to be COVID-19 all tested negative for coronavirus, whereas 58 samples tested positive for influenza A, while 2 tested positive for influenza B. Kaduchu said there were no symptoms of COVID-19, like loss of smell and respiratory failure. This therefore confirms an outbreak of influenza A in congregate settings.
This therefore confirmed an outbreak of influenza A in this setting, which we think is across the country. The co-circulation of influenza A and B is not a unique finding in these congregated settings. The Ministry of Health, together with the Ministry of Education and Sports, have continued to work together to investigate and to respond to other clusters of upper respiratory tract infections in schools to ensure there is no potential misdiagnosis of COVID-19 in these schools.
It should be noted that younger learners appear to have a higher attack rate as compared to older learners. The minister, however, urged the general public to remain calm and be vigilant in the wake of the outbreak of influenza A, as the country remains on high alert to avert any resurgency of COVID-19.
I'd like to reassure the public to remain calm and vigilant in the wake of this outbreak of influenza A, as the country remains on high alert to avert any potential resurgence of COVID-19.
Ismail Mulindwa, the Director of Basic Education in the Ministry of Education and Sports, has guided that schools scale down on activities that would gather all learners in order to manage overcrowding, among other guidelines.
I've seen some schools which have become very innovative in a way that they are even using shades to conduct classes. So those kind of innovations are encouraged so that schools can also manage the overcrowding. But the magic here, and I think the medical people should have talked about this one, is that we need to emphasize the putting on of the magic of the mask.
Influenza is a viral infection that attacks the respiratory system, including the nose, throat, and lungs. People at higher risk of being affected by influenza include young children under the age of 5, adults older than age 65, residents of nursing homes and other long-term care facilities, among others. School administrators are urged to ensure that learners are well hydrated if they are to manage this virus in schools. Nalugo Muyingo, Africa Today.
Away from that, Uganda's consulate in Guangzhou is together with the embassy in Beijing and the Uganda Coffee Development Authority have organized the first Uganda Coffee Day to be held in Guangzhou. Now, the commemoration are to be held under the theme 60 years of strategic friendship and cooperation between Uganda and China towards a shared future in a new era. We have the details. Guangzhou Ginger Coffee and Beverages will feature cupping and testing of the latest harvest of coffee samples of both Robusta and Arabica coffee. The coffee tasting will be done simultaneously in Guangzhou and Kampala, organized by the Uganda Coffee Development Authority. According to a statement released by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the main objective of this event is to promote the unique quality of Uganda coffee in China, create partnerships for importation of Uganda coffee into China, and attract investments and value addition in Uganda's coffee sector, as said in a statement. They say that the event will attract key players in the Ugandan and Chinese coffee sector, including importers, exporters, traders, roasters, dealers in coffee machinery and related equipment, media and relevant government departments. The Uganda Coffee Day is one of the activities to be held in commemoration of 60 years of Uganda-China relations. Coffee is one of Uganda's priority commodity and contributes on an average of 30% of the national economy. Uganda is the leading coffee exporting country in Africa after Ethiopia, well known for its production of Robusta coffee, with at least 80% of the entire production and 20% being Arabica coffee. Well, thank you so much, our reporter. We take a quick break. We shall come back with the international news. Welcome back for the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. In international news today, rising prices driven by the Ukraine crisis have stoked fear of devastating social turmoil in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, in the region, the economy is hobbled by geographical remoteness and decades of violence. Now, lately, when Congolese got at the pump, it has been the same disappointment. We have the details.
Inexorably soaring fuel prices in the Democratic Republic of Congo are the latest consequence of the war in Ukraine. The conflict is stoking fears and anger, especially among residents of the northeastern part of DRC. Africans are also feeling the impact of the Ukraine crisis in the price of fuel. Alimasi Agbara, a taxi driver, wondered why the authorities are not lowering or stopping the rising prices, yet they are present. The rising costs not only affect fuel. On the market stalls, commodities get prohibitively expensive. A 50-kilo bag of sugar, which previously costs around $43 now goes for $60. And the same goes for cooking oil, rice and maize. They are now worth the double of their price a few weeks ago. According to economist Pauline Bishakabalia, one of the reasons explaining this inflation is that DRC heavily relies on imports, a dependence that could destabilize the country's food security. The economics analyst with the Congo Federation of Businesses predicts if at the international level they don't find a way to stop what is happening in Ukraine, it means they have to face supply difficulties because the prices will continue to surge and the country will feel the shock of this war between Ukraine and Russia. To reduce the pressure on households, the government of the Bukavu province has recommended that prices be lowered in the markets. But economic operators struggle to apply that directive. They have already suffered record losses due to inflation.
Away from that, the United Security Council voted on Tuesday to extend for a year the peacekeeping mission in South Sudan. Now, the resolution states the end of the mission's mandate on March 15, 2023.
The resolution, which was voted by 13 members of the Security Council, states 3 primary goals to the peacekeeping mission: prevent a return to civil war in South Sudan, to build durable peace and support inclusive and accountable governance, as well as free, fair and peaceful elections. The operation is one of the most expensive for the UN, with an annual budget surpassing $1 billion. The current level of deployment should remain unchanged, and up to 17,000 blue helmets and 2,100 police officers can be mobilized. A deal signed in 2018 by President Salva Kiir and rebel leader Riek Machar stipulates general elections should be conducted in 2023. After a civil war that killed at least 400,000 people and forced 1 million to flee the conflict, President Salva Kiir and rebel leader Riek Machar signed in 2018. The peace agreement stipulates that general elections should be conducted in 2023.
Away from that, Somalia failed to complete elections for the lower house of parliament by Tuesday, the 15th of March, a deadline marking yet another delay in the electoral process that should lead to the appointment of a new president, which has been expected for more than a year. The Somali government, which last month extended the deadline for completing the appointment of members of the lower house to 15th March, had made no announcement by early Tuesday evening. On Tuesday, the federal states of Southwest and Galmudug concluded the election of their representatives, but 40 of the 275 seats in the lower house remain to be filled in 3 states of Jubaland, Ashbel and Puntland, according to official data. The closure of the lower house elections is a crucial step towards the election of a new president. Under Somali's complex system, federal state assemblies and delegates invested by a myriad of clans and sub-clans choose lawmakers who then appoint the president. The repeated postponements are of concern to the international community, which believes that they distract the authorities from issues crucial to the country, such as Shabab insurgency. After the 25th February postponement, the United States announced visa restrictions against key figures accused of undermining the democratic process in Somalia. A few days earlier, the International Monetary Fund told the media that financial aid to the country, scheduled to end automatically in May, was at risk if a new government was not appointed by then. Moving on in international news, 5 days after a train crash in the Democratic Republic of Congo killed at least 75 people, survivors expressing anger and dismay, blaming the authorities for forcing them to travel in undignified and dangerous conditions. We have the details. These so-called illegal travelers in the Democratic Republic of Congo also accused the military, machinists and other railroad agents of pocketing their money without the slightest ticket in return to allow them to climb into freight cars at the risk of their lives. Chijia Korea, who arrived on Tuesday in Tenke, a mining town in the southeast of the DRC, told the media that they have no choice because of impassable roads and for lack of other means of transport, forcing them to travel like that. Several dozen surviving passengers were transported to Tenke on board half a dozen cars of the train that had not derailed and fallen into the ravine. They were accompanied by soldiers who repeatedly prevented the journalists from filming and interviewing the passengers. On Sunday, the Director General of the National Railway Company of Congo, Fabien Mutomb, had deplored that there were deaths in the accident of this freight train, which was not appropriate for passengers, which, according to him, for passenger trains made the same journey each month. Well, thank you so much, our reporter. We'll take a quick break. We shall come back with business news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. In a business news today, Ivorian Foreign Minister Kandia Kamara was in Ankara on Tuesday. The officials discussed business and trade as they touched on ways to strengthen bilateral relations.
During a press conference, Ivorian Foreign Minister Kandia Kamara addressed the war in Ukraine and called for the creation of an international conflict resolution committee which will travel from capital to capital, gathering the parties at war and bring them around the table to negotiate and find peaceful solutions through diplomacy, through discussion and dialogue. Both parties also discussed health and education. Kamara said the countries had signed a deal for Ivorian aspiring nurses and doctors to be able to go study in transcontinental country, citing Turkey as the first country to which Ivorians would go for medical care. She added that two countries would discuss how to increase the number of scholarships Ivorian students could be offered to pursue their education in Turkey. If Turkey invests more than $200 million in the West African country, the Ivorian minister hinted the agriculture sector would experience significant informations in the coming years, increasing investment opportunities.
In our health news today, the National Drugs Authority has revealed to the Parliamentary Committee on Trade, Industries and Tourism that 4 energy drinks on market contain alcoholic content. Now, according to NDA, the products found to be having alcoholic content include Chitozi with 1.1%, Powerbank with 4.4%, Sabbalala Extra with 10.3%, and Entare Sana with 6%. We have the details. The drugs regulator made the revelation of Wednesday as its official and those from Uganda National Bureau of Standards appeared before the Parliamentary Committee on Trade to present results of the samples of carbonated and non-carbonated soft drinks tested to ascertain caffeine levels and presence of sexual potency enhancing ingredients. Following the findings, the committee chairperson Honorable Mwine Mpaka directed UNBS to regulate the manufacture of distribution of kombucha and energy drinks that have been found to contain alcohol content. He further gave UNBS an ultimatum of 7 days to withdraw distinctive marks on all the energy drinks and kombuchas that have violated the standard. Meanwhile, in its report, NDA highlighted that all the 23 energy drink samples tested complied with the functional caffeine limit of 320 mg or kgs in the carbonated and non-carbonated soft drink standard. Further, the report found out that none of the products was found to be adulterated with inhibitors known to treat erectile dysfunction. However, it was found out that some products like Mukama Nayamba, Power Play, Sabbalala Extra, Akabozi, Kabode coffee contained properties that enhance sexual potency and improve appetite. In a sports news today, a goal in each half from defender Hilary Mukundani and second half substitute Paul Muchurezi inspired the Venoms to the much desired victory before a passionate home crowd. We have the details. Under the scorching hot sun, Vipers Sports Club attained their 14th victory of the campaign in the 2021-2022 Uganda Premier League with a 2-0 home win over Busoga United at the St. Mary's Stadium, Chitende on Wednesday, March 16th, 2022. Vipers had had a false start when midfielder Bright Anukani blasted over a penalty in the 5th minute after Milton Karisa had been fouled in the forbidden area by Douglas Bithum. Mukundane headed home the opener after an inviting delivery by Anukani in the 25th minute. The second goal arrived with 6 points to play when second half substitute Muchurezi blasted home from 30 yards following great interplay with a fellow substitute Najib Yiga. Vipers is now on 46 points, 4 points better than second place KCCA. Busoga United suffered their 12th defeat of the season as they remain 11th with 21 points. Mukundane was named the Pilsner Man of the match. Thank you so much for being a loyal audience from where we started from. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We shall keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the right to know.